Hey guys, my name is Scobie and welcome back to another video. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how to play PSP games on your computer in 2026. We're going to be using the emulator PPSSPP. Let's jump right into this. So the first thing I need to do for this video is open up a web browser, and we're going to be coming to this link. Links is always in the description down below. And we're going to be downloading our PSP emulator, PPSSPP. Come here, click on the downloads button here, and we're going to be downloading the latest Windows version. Now there are a couple of versions here you can get, specifically the gold and the non-gold version. The gold and the non-gold version are exactly the same. The gold version is just a paid version that lets you support the creators. So if you're interested in supporting the creators, definitely get the gold version. Otherwise, we're going to be downloading the free version in today's video, and I'm simply going to be getting the installer here. While we have our web browser open, we're also going to be coming to this link. Links is always in the description to download 7-zip. We're going to need this a little bit later to extract games. Simply come here and download the latest version of 7-zip. Once you have these downloaded, I have all my files here that we're going to need. The first thing we're going to be doing is installing 7-zip. So we need to find our 7-zip application file. We're going to be double clicking it. Click yes on the Windows pop-up that shows up. Select an install location and simply click install. Now that 7-zip is installed, we're going to be talking a bit about games. And I will start by saying I will not be sharing any download links in today's video. You will need to source your own games. However, if you download your games, they will most likely come in a 7-zip, gzip, or some sort of zipped folder. I currently have a game here in a 7-zip folder, and we will need to first extract that game out to be able to play it in PPSSPP. To do this, we're going to be right-clicking, show more options, hover over 7-zip, and I'm going to be extracting my files here. Now this can take a couple seconds. And when your game extracts, it will most likely be in a .iso format, as you can see here. And I currently have 2 games in a .iso format that we're going to be loading into PPSSPP a little bit later on. So once we have all this, we're now going to be installing PPSSPP. We're going to be looking for the setup.exe file that we downloaded earlier. Double click this. Again, click yes on the Windows pop-up. Select the language. I'm going to be leaving it English. Click OK. Select an install location. Again, just going to be leaving it on my C drive. Click next. Click install, and then we're going to be launching PPSSPP. So the first thing I want to do is actually just test and load a game to make sure everything is up and running. Then I'm going to be running through some of the settings that I'd recommend taking a look at in PPSSPP and setting up a controller after that. To do this, we're going to be clicking this load button here on the top right, and we're going to be locating to where our games are. I currently have my games here. I'm simply going to be launching Daxter as an example, clicking open, and then our game is going to launch. So from this point, my game actually will work exactly as I would expect. However, as I mentioned, there's a couple of settings I'd recommend taking a look at first. To close our game, we simply click escape, exit to menu, and now we're going to be back in the PPSSPP overview. From here, we're going to be clicking on the settings option here on the right side. The first one we're going to be taking a look at here is the backend, and by default, it'll be on DirectX 11. Here, I'd recommend changing it to Vulkan or OpenGL if you have a dedicated graphics card. Vulkan can give you some of the best performance, but depending on the game you're playing, you might want to switch it between OpenGL and Vulkan. When you change the backend renderer, we do need to restart PPSSPP, so click restart, and it will automatically restart. The next thing we're going to be looking at is the rendering resolution, and by default, it will render at the resolution inside the internal PSP. Here you can scale it up to a higher resolution, so I'm currently going to be setting it up to 4K just to test it out. But I will say if you are noticing any lag or stuttering, this is one of the first things I would recommend turning down. Depending on the hardware that you have in your system, this can be the first thing that will actually slow down your system quite a bit. I'm then going to be looking at anti-aliasing, and here this can just sharpen up our games. Again, I'm going to be setting it to an 8x resolution. If you want to run everything in full screen, you can enable this option. This will also put PPSSPP in full screen, so I'm going to be leaving it disabled for now, but you can feel free to check this on if you want. It can help avoid screen tearing in certain games, so feel free to enable this if you want. You can look at frame skipping here. To be honest, I would just recommend setting auto frames, which will take care of it itself in most cases, so it can be a good option to enable here. We're then going to be looking at the texture upscaling. Here you can set an upscale level up to 5x. Here I'm going to be going with 2x, but you can feel free to experiment with this a little bit. Finally, you can look at the antiscopic filtering, which you can set all the way up to 16x. I'm going to be leaving it there. And again, you can experiment with these options depending on how performant your system is. It can be a good way to do it. One cool extra option you can do here is set up a camera or a webcam. So if you have one on your computer, you can feel free to set that up. So I can actually enable it to use my webcam for when certain PSP games require the PSP camera accessory. It's a cool option to have that enabled, so feel free to set this up, and you can even set up a mirror image if you want. And then the last things to mention are the FPS counter if you want to enable that. From this point, we're going to be coming to the controls, and here we're going to be setting up a controller. Click on controller mapping, and here And here you'll have the option to set up our controller. Now by default, if you have a controller already connected to your computer and it's any one of the main ones, an Xbox 360, Xbox One or Xbox Series, PlayStation 4, PlayStation 3 or even a PlayStation 5 controller, it will most likely be set up here by default. You can see I already have these settings enabled, even though I haven't actually been manually in here to set everything. For today's video, I'm going to be clearing all just to show how it would work if you are setting up a new controller. You have two ways of doing it. One is the manual setup. So basically you can go through and map each of these buttons. So for example, D-pad up, I click here on the right, click the up button on my controller, and we can see that the X360 is set to up. And I simply go through and map all of my buttons. This is one way of doing it, but there is also an auto configure option here as well. So if you click this, you can basically select the device that you want to automatically configure for. Here I can see my Xbox controller is an option, and it will automatically map all of the Xbox buttons to your controller, but either of these are an option. One extra thing that I really like is you can actually click this button here, show PSP, and go through and map with the mapping of a real PSP, just so you can visualize what it is. The next thing I want to do is set up a game directory before we actually launch our games. To do this, we click on games here. We're then going to be clicking browse, and here you just need to locate to where your games are. So I have all my games here inside this games folder. Click select folder, and should automatically search for all the games you have inside this folder. And you can see I currently have 2 games, Daxter and God of War. Here we can then load up another game if we want. I'm going to be putting it on the full screen option, and you can see now that my game is running and even upscaling all the way to 4K. So earlier I didn't actually set up full screen. It is possible to do it after the fact as well, of course. Simply come up to game settings. We're then going to be looking for the full screen option. Here you can also click Alt Enter or F11, which will also put the game in full screen so you can map in and out of it at any point. And if you want to open up the on-screen menu in PPSSPP, you can click the escape button on your keyboard, or click the start and select button on your Xbox controller, which will be the default mapping. And here you have access to all of your save states if you want to set up a save states. You have quick access to all of your settings. You can exit back to the menu if you want to select another game, and you have everything here you would need to manage and play your game. Anyway guys, it's as easy as that to set up and play PSP games on your PC in 2026. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like. Subscribe if you're new, check out the other videos on the channel. Until next time guys, as always, keep it saucy. Peace.